Wondered if the weather would also. So it will, yeah. So,
Councilmember Lewis, if you can leave the room.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. And for the invocation this evening, I'm going to call on Reverend Rick Masano.
Good evening, everybody. Let's look to the Lord in prayer. Father, as we meet here today as residents of the town of Cheektowaga and our elected officials and our police and fire departments that are here, all our first responders, we want to thank you, Father, for this government and, Father, for our first responders. We ask, Father God, that everything that happens in this meeting tonight will be in decent and order. And, Father God, there's no reason we can't talk about different things, different ways of looking at things, but it has to be in decent and order because that's how you are. You're an orderly God. So, Lord, I just ask, Father, your blessing, your presence here in a very, very special way, your blessing upon each and every one, and those who couldn't make it because of sickness. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Councilmember Barbara Bukowski. Here. Councilmember Monica Elderkin. Here. Councilmember Tiffany Lewis. Here. Councilmember Stephen Nowicki.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Nowak.
Present.
All are present.
Okay. Yeah, I want to welcome everybody to the January 27th meeting of the town board. For our next order for business is any new business. We have none this evening, which is going to move us right along to our public comment period. Before we get into public comment, I am sure this evening we're going to have some lively disagreements on the issues of the day. It's the people's house. I just want to ask everybody that in the course of this, when people approach our podium, that we all give them their opportunity to speak. When they walk away and the next person comes up, that person will be given an opportunity to speak. Our board meetings are live streamed here on YouTube, and for the folks that may be watching at home tonight, I'm going to make priority for those in the room. So if you seek to make public comment online, you probably won't be called on this evening. We do have a lot of folks here, and the focus is to pay attention to all of those that are in the room. And just to close out on this is everybody's town hall. Let's show each other the respect we deserve, and if you can't, unfortunately, I will deal with that accordingly. I'll leave it at that. All right. So as I said, our next Order of business is our public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. We have about 15 people signed up for public comment. I know at our last meeting, we had around 24, and public comment went for about an hour. I talked to a few of you guys today about, I should be more formal. I talked to a few of the council members earlier today about how to address public comment. And I'd like to recommend that we give all the speakers 3 minutes speaking time, and we keep the public comment period to 60 minutes max. Is that okay with the council members? Is there any objection? All right. All right. Okay. So with that, we are going to begin with Dan Ginovetzky. You have 3 minutes once you approach. Good evening.
Hello. So I'm back from speaking last time at the last meeting about the town of Cheektowaga dealing with ICE. There were many speakers who talked about very specific policies and laws they'd like you all to review, like adopting New York for All and MELT Acts and adapting them to the town of Cheektowaga. There's been some announcements I'm sure we all saw out of the city of Buffalo and town of Tonawanda with their policies. And, obviously people spoke last time about what happened with Renee Good, and now we saw with Alex Preddy, and those are obviously tragedies, avoidable tragedies. But what I'd like to focus on is the fact that ICE isn't new. They've been around since 2003. And for many of our immigrant friends and family, they've been trying to warn us they were a problem for years. But it took until we saw what we saw in Minneapolis for people to actually stand up and listen and do something about it. So with that being said, even if you're someone here who, still supports ISIS stated goals, deportation isn't a death sentence. In 2026, 6 people have died in ICE detention. 2026, we're not even one full month into 2026, and 6 people have died in ICE detention. If we look at 2025, 31 people died in ICE detention. And that's detention. That's not counting people who died during arrest, and the people who were hurt and harmed, and then the families that are being torn apart by this. I don't want to turn on the news and see one of my friends or neighbors become another statistic. Or next board meeting, somebody's up here saying 7 people died in ICE detention. Or the meeting after that, suddenly it's 8. So I'm just going to say I'm begging you guys to do something about this, to take action as soon as humanly possible to fix this, and to make sure that their job is as hard as possible when they're working in the town of Cheektowaga. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Holly Nowak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Holly Nowak. I've been a resident of the town of Cheektowaga for roughly 35 years, nearly 20 of those years with my husband, Brian Nowak. I'm not short on opinions when it comes to the various issues that come up in this town, but I don't often speak out publicly because of my relationship with Brian. There are just some issues that I can't stay quiet on. I wear many different hats. I'm a wife, yes. I'm a resident of this town. I'm a community organizer. I'm a social worker. I'm a mother. And this evening, I get to leave this meeting and go back and put my kids to bed, and then do whatever it is that I do at the end of the night to unwind. That's not true for the 7 people when I looked it up. The 7 people that have already died this year. This month. This year. Yes. Because I'm lucky enough that I haven't been shot while I was protesting. I'm privileged enough that no one's beaten down my door to take me away from them. That's why I'm out here today. That's why I'm here. Because the absolute least I can do is speak out. We cannot cooperate with people who are literally gunning people down in the street. who are murdering people on camera and then telling us that we didn't see what we saw, who are using children as bait, who are beating down people's doors and taking them into detention with no legal aid, with papers ICE refuses to look at, and a whole lot of uncertainty. No misrepresentation of what asylum means or what anyone's status is matters. Because even if every person killed by ICE entered this country illegally, murder is still worse. This is about being on the right side of justice now and on the right side of history. I have the privilege of knowing what Brian wants and what's in his heart, right? But he's not the dictator of Cheektowaga. He doesn't get to decide these things on his own. I'm imploring all of you to do what is right and to end cooperation with ICE now. Thank you.
Our next speaker for public comment is Jody Klasinski.
Hello. I'd like to be clear and accurate for the record. We're here tonight as local residents, not paid organizers, not outside groups, and not professional protesters. We are here because this is our community, and we care deeply about its stability and future. Peaceful, lawful expression is protected. Everyone has the right to protest lawfully and in accordance with the law, town's laws and regulations, and that right applies equally to all residents. But conduct that interferes with public safety, blocking roads, intimidating residents, or preventing laws, preventing law enforcement officers from doing their jobs is not protected. It is reasonable and appropriate for this board to distinguish between lawful community voices and organized efforts coming from outside the community that seek to disrupt and intimidate or violate local laws. Outside agitators who come here to cause disorder are not welcome and should not be tolerated. For clarity, I'm not good at public speaking. For clarity, the Cheektowaga Police Department is not partnered with any federal agency. They operate under local and state law. Federal agencies such as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Border Patrol have separate and distinct responsibilities under federal law. These agencies may operate within the same geographic area, but they function independently with their own legal authority. We support the enforcement of immigration laws as written. Personal political views should never interfere with the fair and consistent enforcement of the law. Upholding the rule of law is fundamental to public safety and community trust. Our community has the right to expect consistent enforcement of the law and respect for those who sworn to protect it. I am here tonight because silence is no longer acceptable. When boundaries are not stated clearly, they are tested. When enforcement becomes inconsistent, disorder follows. We have seen this pattern play out elsewhere, including in cities like Minneapolis, and we are here to say it will not be repeated here. I'm a 37-year resident of Cheektowaga community. I take pride in where I live. We do not want Cheektowaga to become one of the many cities where law enforcement is told to stand down during periods of civil unrest. We expect this town to remain orderly, safe, and governed by law, not pressure. This is not a warning. This is a statement of expectation from the people who live here, pay taxes here, and raise families here. Also, for the record, I strongly oppose the property tax levy being proposed tonight. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Bitterman.
Before I begin, I am invoking my rights under the American Disabilities Act. I am terminally ill and on oxygen, and I require that timer to be paused whenever I need to catch my breath. To ensure effective communication under the law, you have a proactive duty to accommodate my disability. Do not cut me off like you did the last meeting. I am here to discuss law, not the version Chief Coombs and Supervisor Nowak made up for the news, but the actual law as it exists. In this room at the last meeting, you watched me struggle for every breath. You did nothing. Nothing. You didn't offer a chair. You didn't offer me time. You sat in silence while my civil rights were trampled because you didn't want to hear the truth. And it makes me wonder if you are willing to violate the rights of a terminally ill woman that you can see struggling with your own eyes. What makes me think you won't violate the rights of brown people? As soon as the person's out of sight, you will do this. I've been in your jail cells. I've seen Black people locked up in the back while I sat there next to the desk with no cuffs. I've seen the blatant racism from this town. That is culture of this board and this department. You went on the news, Channel 4, and called us misinformed agitators. You told the public we accused local police of wearing masks and kicking doors in. That was a lie. We know who wears the masks. That's ICE. You are gaslighting this community with masks and doors. Stories hide the one thing your department is responsible for is that phone call the cops picked up to call Border Patrol and ICE agents. Chief, you told WIVB that cooperation is occasional, but investigative posts documented 21 cases in Cheektowaga alone. That is not occasional. Where your officers acted as funnel for ICE, you are calling federal agents over snow on license plates. You are destroying families over shoplifting, calls at the Galleria. This isn't joint raid, this is a choice. You are choosing to use our tax dollars to do federal work in a sanctuary state. And then you are lying about it to it on camera, like we wouldn't watch it. When there's proof right there and right here. You called me a liar on the stage on Channel 4 during your meeting. And everybody else in this room. You know exactly what was said, yet you chose to misrepresent us. You ignored my disability. You ignored the 21 families you tore apart, and you ignored your oath of office. My attorney will be in touch regarding the ADA violations. We are not misinformed. We are witness to your future.
That is 3 minutes. I thank you for your time and your comments. And we did pause it every time you took a breath. And actually, I gave you 30 seconds in addition without asking the rest of the board. So thank you.
Yeah, we're witness to all of your failures. Woo!
Our next speaker is Bill Bitterman.
Thank you for your time. I'm 63 years old, was born and raised in Cheektowaga, New York. I love my country, and best of all, I vote, always. I voted in since I was 18, I've never missed an election, any one of them. As citizens of this community in the United States of America, we have to remember that all of the current issues and problems in our society didn't begin or start until after ICE started terrorizing, murdering, and publicly executing United States citizens whose only crime was exercising their constitutional rights as Americans, and we live to be free. For Cheektowaga to be assisting in this rogue, morally bereft, murdering agency in any way, shape, or form is immoral, and it's unacceptable. Making false claims to the local and the national media, not Cheektowaga, but there's false claims being made everywhere that we are agitators and paid protesters was not only insulting, it was preposterous, and it's an outright lie. The reality is the majority of Cheektowaga residents and United States citizens feel exactly the same as I do and most of these people in the room do. As a result, I am formally asking this board and the Cheektowaga Police to do the right thing and withdraw all support for ICE immediately. Keep them out of our community, and if not, we'll vote every one of you out when your terms are up, no matter what. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I don't care. It's irrelevant, okay? The right is right, wrong is wrong. Don't support these murdering bastards. Enough is enough. Power to the people.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Page.
Okay, thanks for having me. My name is Jennifer Page. I have been a resident of Sloan for almost 5 years. My in-laws have had family in the Cheektowaga, Sloan area for over a century. I am here tonight because I witnessed countless people come to the last meeting and implore the 7 of you to do the right thing and divest from working with ICE. Cheektowaga Police working with ICE. And that is the last time I will use that word, because I am going to call them what they are. They are domestic terrorists. These domestic terrorists are terrorizing our country. We are in a fascist place right now, and we have a moral obligation to do the right thing and review the policies that you have in place with Cheektowaga Police and make sure that it aligns with New York for all, because everybody deserves safety. I don't care what your immigration status is. We are human beings. And as all of you know who have come here tonight, we drove through tremendous snow to get here. People should be able to go to the grocery store and to Walmart, get supplies they need to make their family safe, and safely go home. I am going to go to Wegmans after this and get eggs for my family. I will get to go home to my family and tuck my children in. I have 3 kids who are in the Cheektowaga Sloan community, like the school district. What are we doing, and what are we going to do? Because I don't want to come back next month and have the same conversation. Enough is enough. Mayor Ryan has done the right thing. He has signed an executive order banning Buffalo Police from working with these domestic terrorists. Why have we not done this yet? We want safety for our neighbors, and we demand safety for our neighbors. And as I leave, the last thing I will say, I want everybody to look at Investigative Post journalist J. Dal Shoemaker, because he has been connecting the dots for the last year, showing how Cheektowaga Police are working hand in hand with domestic terrorists. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jessica Greenwald.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. So, I grew up in Cheektowaga, and I proudly own a home in Cheektowaga. I have since 2018. I love this town, and I love the people in it, which is why for months, I went right across this parking lot to train and learn how to serve and protect it as a firefighter. And I became the third generation in my family to serve Cheektowaga as a firefighter because I believe in public service and I have nothing but respect for public servants. But it's also because of this that I believe public servants, and especially those given guns, badges, and salaries from taxpayers like myself, they need to be held to the highest standard. Anything less is unfair, not only to the community that they serve, but to all of the men and women who serve beside them. Like, they should not have their invaluable work tainted by behaviors that are unbecoming of a department. As a trained first responder, I know, and anybody else can tell you, that clear, written, unambiguous policy is incredibly important, especially when those policies dictate human lives, as we are seeing with Policy 414 and the Cheektowaga Police. This week, Captain Schmidt admitted to CPD having to retrain the police over the issues that we've been bringing to the board, that they told the news they weren't doing, and that they're anticipating a lawsuit, which we can't afford as a town. A 1-hour training module is not sufficient in correcting the overwhelming truth that 2/3 of any of the local immigration arrests where police departments have helped have come from our town. We need to do what Buffalo and North Tonawanda and these other cities across the state and nation are doing and end any kind of collaboration or collusion with these agencies. We know that ICE is not the same agency it's always been. We just watched them shoot a disarmed nurse who worked in the VA ICU, and he was a civil servant. He was a helper. He was just like many people in this room, some of them in uniform. And he got executed by poorly trained, poorly disciplined federal agents that should have never been there to begin with. There's no reason for our local police to be calling and inviting these people into our town and our community. DHS's own website classifies 80% of the people that they took this year as non-criminal. So it doesn't provide any kind of positive value. They're not removing danger from our town. They are creating danger in the towns that they come into. We need policies that are based on facts.
Jessica,
and
that is
protecting
3
the
minutes. We
community.
thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you. I just want to say this also protects everybody that serves the community as well as everyone who lives here.
Our next speaker is Rachel Martinez.
Hello again, board. I'm here again to discuss Cheektowaga Police assistance with ICE and call for a resolution to be passed similar to the executive order signed by Sean Ryan and similar to the statement made by Tonawanda. I feel as though some of our statements and concerns have been misrepresented, so I do want to be clear. I am a Cheektowaga resident. I've been a homeowner here in Cheektowaga since 2015. And I want to make it clear that I do support our police department in continuing their obligation to protect and serve our community. However, they deserve clear policy, procedures, and training to be able to accomplish that duty. What I also want to be clear on, however, is that this is not what ICE and Border Patrol are doing. They're not serving, they're not protecting. They're indiscriminately grabbing, detaining, and deporting people without criminal records, without due process, and without judicial warrants. The current Cheektowaga Police Department policy as it stands does not support our police in performing their duties ethically. It leaves the door wide open to individual judgment based on items such as poor English proficiency, suspicion of forged documentation, and a quote of other factors based on training and experience. And again, as we heard, a 1-hour computer-based program is definitely not sufficient for training and experience. This vague nature leads to significant potential for bias, discrimination, and error, resulting in lawsuits such as the one that was acknowledged in the New York Focus article published just last week. Our community needs and deserves clear policies and procedures, and a police force that's well-trained in order to build trust and support in the face of so much violence and lawlessness. I call on the board to work towards this goal with an initial step of a resolution to not support ICE and civil immigration enforcement and align our current policies with New York for all. I know a lot of people have talked about the recent deaths. We did have another shooting today. So this is happening every single day. We need to act now.
Yes.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Dan Collender.
I want to talk about Resolution 2026-72. I need some clarification on that. It looks like you got two people are going to take the place of one that's retiring, and the wages come out to be $115,000 a person. What were the wages of the person that's retiring? Can you tell us more about this? It's really kind of vague in there to help make us taxpayers understand how $230,000 is going to be money well spent versus whatever the original person was making. Were they making $230,000 plus benefits?
I'll say this much. We're going to be pulling that item from the consent agenda, discussing it and amending it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Our next speaker is Lisa Sekatursky.
Hi, guys. Just change it up a little bit. I am questioning who is responsible for clearing off the sidewalks at some of the public places like 7-Eleven at the corner of, Union and Como and the Resurrection Church there. I went to walk to church on Saturday and, you got to step 6 inches off of the snow, but you had to trudge through. You can't even put hit the button sign for a walk because there's so much snow there. I get it. We had a snowstorm, but all of that snow was not from this last storm. So from the previous ones, the sidewalks weren't cleared. I mean, I'm trying to make sure that people are safely taken care of. We have a lot of people that walk in our area. Even over at Target this morning, the same thing. There's a bus stop. You can't get to the bus stop, so people are forced to stand in the street. I personally don't want to fall and break a hip or have anything like that happen. So I just want to know who's responsible and why isn't it being taken care of?
Short answer is the property owner. There may be certain exceptions if it's town property of that. If you mentioned a couple specifically, I can reach out to code enforcement and mention those particular cases.
I called yesterday. Okay. Nobody called me back. I did call Resurrection Church today. They actually did call me back. I took pictures of all the places that I went just in case anybody wanted to see them. So that they would know that these things, need to be taken care of.
Another thing we've done periodically is put notices out on social media or on the town's website, reminding people of town code and just encouraging folks to follow the town code. That's something we could do as well.
Okay. I know it's not cheap. I mean, you have a property that should be part of your, yearly maintenance to have the sidewalks cleared. So I just does anybody go around and check the local businesses to make sure that they're done?
I can check in with exactly what code enforcement does, but a lot of times if a complaint's made, that's followed up on. That's the general practice.
Okay. There was a very nice lady that did answer the phone at town hall yesterday and today when I called, and she gave me a number, but nobody was available and nobody returned my call.
Okay. My apologies on that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next speaker is, I've got Dennis Hannon, or is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know if that was an N or an R. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So my name is Dennis Emery Hannon, and I'm here to stand in opposition of my colleagues that want to abolish the coupling of ICE cooperation with local law enforcement. Now, I have worked 3 years out of the FBI field office as a confidential source. My task, my role was human trafficking and children that were victims of violent sexual crimes. Okay, that's what I did. So I understand firsthand the importance of local law enforcement cooperation with federal agencies. Tragedy happens when we stop communicating. When we stop working together, local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, when they stop working together and the left hand isn't communicating with the right hand, that's when issues arise. That's the real danger. Okay, I've heard a lot about how, well, we don't want to be the next Minneapolis. Okay, the answer to that is very simple. It's called comply with lawful orders. If you want to protest, decorum,
Hold on.
decorum, decorum.
Can you stop the timer?
Decorum.
Hold on. Just a second.
We all have a right to
Dennis,
protest.
please.
Yes, sir.
We have had 10 speakers already, and we've all done a great job respecting each other. It's his turn to speak. I'm sure we would have differences of opinion if we spoke personally, but the floor is yours. Please continue.
Yeah, so we should all comply with lawful orders, all right? If you want to protest and exercise your First Amendment, that's fine. You have the right to do so. But when you want to impede or interrupt or interfere with federal law enforcement investigations and the work that they do, then guess what? There's consequences to actions. Okay, there are. And so, decorum, please. So, you know what? There's some people that want to stand with this recent nurse who was unfortunately lost his life. I stand with the nurses like Lake and Riley who don't have a voice. Okay, I stand with nurses like Lake and Riley who don't have a voice, who were brutally murdered by illegal immigrants that came into this country. I'm not an FBI agent. I was a confidential source. Okay.
Just a second.
Give us 3 minutes or what?
I hope we're pausing.
Yeah. No, just.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you should be spewing misinformation.
I'd like. Guys, hey, again, at the outset, I said if we can't respect each other's time, people are going to go. Let him have his time. I'd like the board to give him another 60 seconds. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? You have 1 more minute.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So it seems like what we're seeing is a radicalized group of people who have listened so much to the mainstream media that they think that what they're doing is right, when in fact they're taking part in a color revolution. We've seen it in other countries, and we're seeing it here. We're rewriting the definition of everything. Okay. Where's my freedom of speech? I have folks back here calling me a Nazi, calling me a fascist. I didn't interrupt what they said once.
Not one time.
Okay, not once, because I respect them.
It can be objective.
There's no objectivity with Nazis. What are we saying? Nobody interrupted you. What are you saying?
When
Hold on.
Nobody's protesting about all the illegal that killed Americans.
No, hold on. This shouldn't be difficult. We're going to give the gentleman 1 more minute. I don't care who likes his opinion. I don't care who doesn't. We have folks all over this region watching these meetings, and we aren't going to be the place that does this when we hear unpopular opinions and opinions we don't like. There's all sorts of lecturing about free speech, and this is speech I have disagreement with, but we're going to give him his time to speak unimpeded. You have a minute.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So it seems like we're rewriting the definitions of things, you know, like what it means to be a citizen. I'm a citizen. My ancestors came here the legal way. We have legal process and we have legal ports of entry. And guess what? When you come here illegally, that's the risk you take. We don't separate families. We send them all back together.
No, you lie!
What a lie.
So I stand with law enforcement. I encourage my friends to also work with ICE, because if you want tragedy, it'll come from not communicating with each other, not talking, not cooperating, and not working together. We have an immigration crisis. We do. Thank you.
You're a liar.
To the board, to our board, would we like to extend the opportunity to speak to anyone else in the audience? We did allow up to 60 minutes. That is the last person that signed up to speak.
Can we retort some of the things that were just said? Because
Do we hit?
So we still have one
Yeah,
resident who
hold on.
hasn't spoke yet.
One at a time, everyone.
So we have one resident who hasn't spoke yet. We still allotted more time, so if he wants to sign up, go. No, you will not have a chance to debate back and forth. This is not a debate, it's a public comment period. Please respect each other's opinions, even if they are the opposite.
All right. Good evening. Hold on, hold on.
Can I have the opportunity to talk without an interruption, please? Thank you. My name is Mark Farrell. I live on 1190 Borden Road, and I've been in this area for over 40 years. I'm here to vote to keep the tax cap at as it stands. I don't want another increase. I don't want it to an open forum. I don't want it I want it locked in. It was put in there for a reason. We all know the reason. So it didn't get out of control. We need to work within our budget. Every homeowner here has a budget to work on. They don't have taxpayers to just keep paying and paying and paying. You have more money now than you've ever had. You have assessments out there from new apartments that are bringing in revenue. And that's according to your own words. Assessments have doubled, in many cases, almost tripled, while our utilities are keeping going up and up and up to triple digits. Taxes have gone up every year, never down. We always want more. All the revenue from all our new bills or the new apartments, where's that going? We're told that it's going back into the community. I keep getting papers that say I need to pay more. I don't see it. All of you, I've already said that. We need to find a way to work in private forum or open forum like this to keep things intact for the taxpayers. Control your spending. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Wally Carriero, Town of Cheektowaga resident since October of 1990. I'm not even an old man yet. I live in my town, I pay my taxes, and I don't think you guys are doing your job. And let me tell you how I don't think you're doing your job. Number one, I oppose the tax cap, and that's really what I come up here to say. But I think you got to start holding residents more accountable. You got to start holding residents more accountable to be respectful in this environment. You have to hold residents accountable. The only reason why I can see my taxes are going up so much is because people ain't doing their fair share in this town. If we don't have to send inspectors out to check sidewalks for being shoveled, then we don't need as many inspectors. You talk about the cost of everything going up, and I'm looking at these television sets as I sit here, and I'm saying, you know, these things are like $200 nowadays. They're throwaways. The cost of goods has come down so much. We do have a problem in our country. We have a problem of spending and spending and spending, and we want to say yes to everybody. We want our grandkids to have 15 bicycles instead of one. All we want is you guys to hold us accountable, and we're happy to pay if we're getting the value of goods and services. We're not getting that value of goods and services from our town, and that's why these people are upset. It's not about people moving into my town. I have no problem with that. When they use their backyards as dumpsters, that's where I come to this meeting and say, hey, listen, we got to get more code enforcement officers here because people are not shoveling their sidewalks. People are not picking up their garbage. People are not cutting their grass. People are not being good residents of our town. And all I call on you guys to do is to be fiscally responsible and hold the residents accountable as well. Thank you.
With that, we're going to move on to our public hearing.
A call for public hearing was made at the January 9th, 2026 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2026-22, to solicit views and hear all persons in interest to allow the Town of Cheektowaga to adopt a budget for the fiscal year January 1st, 2027 in excess of the tax levy limit as set forth in General Municipal Law, Article 2, Section 3C.
Please strive for it, not that hard.
All right, with that, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, public hearing is open. Seeing no opposition. All right, we do have 6 signed up to speak. Before we do that, I would like to introduce our Finance Director, Brian Kraus. He has a short presentation to share with the town board and the public. The floor is yours, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you. So I have a PowerPoint presentation to just give the landscape of what our budget looks like and what sort of impacts we have related to the budget. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is our current budget. On the left side with the orange graph, orange line is our spending. The spending is at $113 million, 0.6. And how do we pay for that? Ultimately, we have 3 sources of how we pay for things. One being our other revenue sources. The next being the property taxes. And then ultimately, we determine what we think we may be able to use of our fund balance or reserves. And so the theory on that is you generally don't spend every dollar that's in your budget. You generally bring in, hopefully we budget revenues conservatively, and we'll bring in other revenues that are greater than what are in the budget. So when you spend less and you bring in more, you have some excess there that hopefully is in the range of what you have planned to spend of your cash reserves. So generally, you're not going to spend the full fund balance plan, but if you're out of balance in your budget, ultimately you're spending more than you're bringing in revenue, you will start using your cash reserves. Cash reserves are a stagnant pot of money. Ultimately, if we're using them year in and year out, it will go away, and then you have to raise taxes. So that's kind of the general situation of the budget. If you can go to the next page. So I know this is not readable. I apologize for that. What it does do is, for the folks that are, I guess, on YouTube, they should be able to read it. But what I'm doing is I'm showing the comparison of budgets from 2020 through 2026. And so the orange column, shows appropriations. And from 2020 to 2026, we've raised spending by $20.6 million. It's a 22% increase. On the other side, you have the 3 pots of how we go about paying for things. Our other revenue source went up about $6 million in that time frame. Our taxes went up 9.5%, or $6.6 million. And then ultimately, we've been continually increasing our appropriated fund balance for a number of years to the point of over $8 million, 131% increase. So the concern really is ultimately, while we have these budgets in place, they're structurally unbalanced. At the end of the
Brian, I'm sorry to cut you short. Madam Clerk, can you zoom in on that just a little bit? Try to pull it up. All right, thank you. Brian, you can continue.
Yeah. So So the thing of it is that there's years where we've had appropriation increases and we've had tax levies that are at 0% increase, 0% increase. In 2022, it's 0, 2023, it's 0, 2024, it was less than 1%. 2025, we went to the maximum of the tax cap. In 2026, we went to the maximum of the tax cap as well. So, again, the budget's structurally unbalanced where we are spending more than we are bringing in revenue. And while we can do that for a time, we can't do it indefinitely. Go to the next slide, please. I'll have to zoom out now. So to discuss the tax cap, you know, the New York State property tax cap's limited to an increase in the lower of 2% or whatever the New York State government determines is the rate of inflation. So that doesn't get determined until September 2026 for this upcoming year. If we assume 2%, our tax levy allowable increase would be just over $1.5 million. Cheektowaga, we've done some research, and I believe Cheektowaga is the only town in Western New York, at least of our size, that has not exceeded the tax cap since the law has been in place in 2012. So, you know, what has impacts on our budget? You know, we have a large payroll. We have 5 unions. Our budget for 2026 payroll is almost $44 million. Union contracts will need to be negotiated for 2027 for 4 of our 5 unions. You know, public sector law, labor law is called the Taylor Law. It requires that contracts remain in place as is until they're negotiated to be different. So unions are not allowed to strike, but they don't lose anything. They don't gain anything either until the negotiation is completed. Police unions have an ability to go to binding arbitration. The remainder of the unions have an arbitration process, but it's not a binding arbitration. So, you know, there's a process in place that we could, you know, go through. Ultimately, you have to go through mediation, arbitration if things can't be settled, and you know, there's a further process there, but a challenging process in and of itself. And a lot of people think, oh well, we're negotiating, so we can just get everything back that we need to. There's a lot of good logic and things that what we should get back. The thing of it is that we've been, you know, these benefits for the each of these unions have been negotiated over multiple tens of years, 20, 30 years. That is hard to reverse that process, but it's a challenge to do it, and that's our goal. So, but if you have a 2.5% increase in theory, that would impact our budget by almost $1.2 million. Again, just to highlight, our tax cap would be $1.5 million. All right, go to the next slide, please. Further appropriation changes, fringe benefits, again, also related to union contracts, have a retirement cost, which is driven mainly by New York State retirement rate increases. Those rates last year, or in 2026, increased by 10%. If we assume a 5% increase in 2027, which we have no control over whatsoever, it's what New York State determines the rate needs to be. The control is how many employees that we have, and you know, our contracts dictate a lot of that, as well as our demand for services. So a 5% increase in 2027 would equate to over $550,000. Health insurance, which is also part of our negotiated contracts, a 5% increase in that would have an impact of $845,000. Just payroll and fringe benefits far exceeds our tax cap in general right there. Debt service is to be determined, but we will likely need to issue some debt for continued improvements on our aging infrastructure assets. We have continual need for improvement of our sewers, which are 80, 90, 100 years old, as well as other roads and drainage. So that's not even an impact that I have on this thing. It's just a statement of fact that likely debt service will have to be adjusted. We have risk retention called general liability and workers' compensation that we have self-insured. In this environment, I'd say a 3% increase would be a reasonable expectation, if not a little bit low. So that impact would have a $100,000 impact as well. We do have contractual agreements with services that we provide. The Buffalo Sewer Authority provides services for us, and we have contracts related to that. That cost generally increases each year based on what the Buffalo Sewer Authority is doing in their updates, as well as how much our sewer flow is reaching them and how much sewage they have to treat. But a 5% in that cost equates to $270,000. Sanitation contract for us to dispose of our garbage when we pick it up. We just bid that out, and that increase was greater than what we have in our current budget. So likely we'd have to increase that by maybe 10%. That's $178,000 cost. Our recycling program, again, something that is required by the state. We have Modern pick that up. And there is a CPI. That contract was just entered into in 2025, maybe 2025. Yes, early. So that it gets adjusted with the CPI as well. That could be likely a $100,000 increase as well. So, I mean, these items are generally contractually related, things that we would have to incur. Total numbers that I just highlighted are about $3.2 million. So, like, from the revenue standpoint, we do have other revenues, and we try to maximize those. Interest income, unfortunately, kind of peaked out, and now you can see the Fed has been cutting the interest rates, so that's likely going to decrease. We have the new tax on adult use cannabis. That number has been increasing, so that's potentially a good answer there. Sales tax generally goes up modestly each year. The hotel bed tax is new. We'll have to see how that works out. And then the mortgage tax is what we receive on sales of houses in general. That number has been pretty high as it is, so I don't expect increases in that number. So our fund balance, as I was talking about before, is what could be our planned use of cash reserves. And in 2024, we spent $6.2 million more than we brought in. So we used our fund balance. In 2025, while the year is over, we're still booking our final end of the year accruals and whatnot. But we project about a $2.9 million use of fund balance. So we spend more than we bring in revenues. 2026, the way the budget was put together, I would say it's highly likely to have spending exceed our revenues So that would be 3 years in a row where we're basically out of balance with our budget, spending more than we are bringing in. So we have generally recurring spending that is not being paid for with recurring revenues. So in theory, we should plan to decrease the use of our reserves in 2027. So the final answer here, which I know nobody really wants to hear about it, but the facts are that we have contractually related spending increases of about $3.2 million. And then we have a tax levy limit currently of the $1.5 million. So we're out of balance by $1.7 million as it stands right now. The board last year and that ended 2025, we went through a significant budgeting process. There was much debate, and there was much adjustment of what the budget started as and what it ended as, but it ended at the property tax cap, and that was required because we did not have the ability to exceed the tax cap. All I'm highlighting here is that the budget's out of balance, and if we don't balance it, at some point, the town will be bankrupt, and that will be, then the property taxes will have to be mandatorily brought back up. So that's my presentation at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Before we go into questions that I have in from the audience, I'd like to open it up to members of the town board if they have any questions for Brian relating to the presentation. We do have our town comptroller with us this evening, Dennis Dombrowski, in the back. So if there's any questions, between Brian and Dennis, they'll do their best to answer them on the spot. And obviously, I want to encourage you guys to send any questions you have to them directly after this meeting and as we're working on the budget throughout this year. So any questions from the board? All right.
Yes.
Councilman Thompson.
This could be for Brian or Dennis. Do you know what amount is going back into the general or the reserves from last year? Because I know typically we're told that we don't have those final numbers until much further into the year. So what are we anticipating those numbers to be?
I anticipate the numbers to be spending more than revenue. So there will be no funds going back into fund balance.
Any idea how much or how short we'll be, or?
Yeah, I mean, the presentation I just showed in general in the town, it'd be $2.9 million where we're spending more than we're bringing in the total budget, not just the general fund.
So how much would you propose to get on track to balance this budget? We would need an increase of what percentage does that look like to you?
That I can't answer at this point in time. All I'm just highlighting is that the budget, with the general numbers that I've presented, the budget's out of balance by $1.7 million of a revenue source to be within the tax cap.
And another question on revenues. So is it correct for anybody that does not pay their, taxes that are behind, do we get reimbursed from the county?
That is correct. We are made whole by the county for our full tax levy. So whatever we need, whatever is budgeted for a tax levy number, we receive fully.
So in theory, every parcel in the town we are receiving taxes from, correct?
Well, I mean, every parcel that's taxable.
Oh.
So, I mean,
besides government owned. So if we're adding more parcels and we're adding apartment complexes and new businesses, where is that revenue tracked? Is it tracked, or do we know where those new funds that are coming in from new businesses or new apartment complexes that are going up that you see all over the place?
That's the complexity of the budget. So our budget, we are levying a number saying we need $75.5 million of taxes for 2026. We take that number and we divide it by the assessments. So so ultimately, if the assessments went up significantly and our taxes remain the exact same, the tax rate would go down. So the tax rate's dictated by the tax levy divided by the assessments. So that's what makes this very complex for people to grasp. And so I get what people are saying is like, hey, we got all these new parcels, we got all these new assessments. Our assessments do go up generally, and that has an impact on the tax rate. So we take whatever we say we need for our tax levy to balance our budget, and we divide it by the total assessments. And if the assessments go up, the tax rate is lesser.
Any other council members? I've just got one question before we open it up to the audience, and this is both for the finance director and the town comptroller. And there's a few pieces of this, but it gets to the general question of why we're talking about this. So I'm asking about 3 different budget drivers: wages, pensions, and healthcare. And essentially, is it true that our wages are going up between 3 and 3.25% year over year from 25 into 26? And that we can expect a similar trajectory from 26 to 27? Is it also true that our pension costs have gone up double digits? And is it also true that our health insurance costs have gone up over 10%? So that's the question. Has our wages gone up more than 3% and our pensions and healthcare benefits gone up double digits?
That's correct.
Thank you, Dennis. Brian? So
That's correct.
Those costs and other costs related to wages and in salaries and labor compensation in town account for somewhere between 65 to 70% of the budget, right?
Correct.
So with all of that in mind, with our budget trajectory and everything in this presentation, at our current projections of spending, what we expect to spend on labor alone next year, is it fair to say that unless we spend down our savings further, we're going to have to exceed the tax cap? Is that an accurate statement?
That's correct.
Brian?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you both. And with that, I'm sorry, Councilman Nowicki, did you want to? Okay, we'll go back to you, but why don't you start?
So this question is just about our staffing here. Somebody told this to me the other day when I was at the Association of Towns training, but I didn't get the chance to look it up yet. So I know we were concerned with our, $44 million in payroll that we have going on right now. But when I was talking with one of our fellow council members years back, they were saying that at the time they had over 500 employees in the town. That was about 10, 15 years ago. And now we're down to 400. Is that accurate that we've lost about like 20% of our staffing within the last 10 to 15 years?
There is, I do have a document, but I don't have it with me. But it definitely in the last, I'd say more than 10 years, yes, we've significantly reduced staffing as best we can. in most instances. And then there's other times where we've added bodies where we feel it's needed. But generally, yes, we've decreased their employee headcount.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So in the warrants, which is a package of all the bills that we're paying from the last meeting up until now. So on here, we have, let's see, debt service fund. So $386,000 from bonding interest, almost $400,000. I mean, everybody in here has credit cards. Do we max it out every time? Yeah, we'd love to have a full stocked fridge and all the stuff from Amazon that you could imagine, but we don't. We budget and we cut where, it may not be comfortable. That's how every single person should be budgeting their home. I would imagine they do. So why are we not doing the same thing? It'd be great to bond and have every single street paved perfectly, but that's just not the case. Why do we get to do that and just take more tax dollars from you? Oh, sorry, your taxes are going up. Everything's going up. Wages are going up. Everything is. So why do we not have to trim where we can? And we'll just take it from you.
Council member, can I respond?
Sure.
All right, so our bonding is long-term debt that we use to fund our long-term infrastructure repairs. So it's not to fund operating expenses. So when we're paying this debt for sewers that we put in that are going to last 40 years. So it's justifiable that you're paying debt on an asset that's giving you service for the next 40 years. And that's the justification of bonding. You bond for long-term items. A household would be like you get a line of credit in order to repair your roof, to get a new roof put on. You shouldn't get a line of credit to go, like you said, get 15 bikes. You don't need 15 bikes, but you do that for, hopefully, I'm paying attention to you, Wally. So ultimately, you have long-term debt for long-term assets. That's our goal here.
Thank you for explaining that to folks that may not be inept to how that works. But yeah, thank you. So you brought up sewers, and we've been spending, significant amount of money to repair and fix our sewers because they're going to last 100 years. That's fantastic. So we've been under a DEC consent order, and we've been forced to correct our sewer issues. So we start doing that. And as time is passing, we're spending millions of dollars on fixing these sewers. So yeah, we don't need them, right?
Guys, the councilman.
You look at last year, and we have discussions with the DEC who tell us that we are not compliant with the orders that they've been given to us. And we've been doing work that is unnecessary in relevance to the orders that they've given us. So we're spending millions of dollars fixing sewers and going above and beyond on things that aren't necessary. This is some of the wasteful spending that we're talking about.
Sewers is one of my departments I take care of. I haven't heard of any of these claims. I've heard that we're still farther behind than we need to be with tens of thousands of dollars of fines a day. I don't want to get off the track here, but if that's a concern, I'd be happy to talk with you about it after the meeting.
And this has been going on last year. I know you've not been here, but we can certainly get you up to speed. But that's just one example of us spending money where we shouldn't be, bonding or tearing up streets. Why are we paving roads just to pave just to pave roads.
Guys in the audience, let the councilman speak, one at
Thank
a
you,
time.
Supervisor. We have a list that we're given of all the roads that are going to be paved. Why are there roads that are popping up that we just, on this list, paved less than 10 years ago, and they're popping up again? Why are we bonding money to pave that road? Excuse me, in a moment, Dennis. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So why are we bonding money to pave certain roads on this list that we're told this is the list that we're doing? It's going to be paved, and years later, it's showing up on the list again, and it's going to be bonded again. Why are we doing this multiple times in a row? This came up last year, and there were efforts to try and correct that, but this, who knows how long this has been going on for? And this is to no fault of anybody on this board, because this has been going on before our time here. Everything's not going to be fixed in 1 year. Just like last year when you had a Republican-controlled board, we didn't destroy the town in 1 year. If we did, that's pretty impressive. So all of these issues are not something that have just come up. This is decades and decades of mismanagement, and it's everybody's duty on this board to find a way forward this year, and I look forward to finding and working through those challenges. But I just felt it necessary to speak on that a little bit more. Mr. Comptroller, if you'd like to comment, you have the floor. If you can come up to the podium, please.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the reason why roads keep popping up on the list. And the last 6 months.
Before your time, but.
Well, even still today. We have issues where we go and pave a road, but unfortunately the water authority doesn't coordinate with us to repair water lines at the same time. So we've experienced water lines breaking. My street on Rossler, exactly the same thing. I think our street was paved for like 2 weeks and a water line broke in front of the school. And if you go down the street now, you'll see all the patchwork. The good thing is if the county comes in, they do reimburse us. So we're not repaving we are repaving the road, but we are getting reimbursed back from the county and the water authority. The other issue that streets are popping up on the list is because they weren't done. The previous board on several occasions, even when I started in April, we had RFPs and we had proposals to do the work, but the board rejected them for whatever reason, whether it was a conflict with the vendor, or we just didn't get any vendors. There have been RFPs that we got 0 bids. So once again, all this work that was supposed to have been done the last couple of years was postponed. So now it's starting to pile up. Now, the cost of doing that in materials alone is going to go up. It's just a never-ending battle. And the reason a lot of these streets weren't done last year, because we only paved 1 street, just so you know, last year, Pleasant Parkway. And I'd like you to know, too, that we came in $85,000 under budget because we were watching the project. I also saved us $500,000 in CHIPS grant to be applied towards that project. So the impact to the town, besides our employees, was only a couple $100,000. If we did not do Pleasant Parkway, we would have lost the $500,000 in CHIPS funding. We would have also lost some community grants that we received for doing the curbs and the handicapped ADA compliant sidewalks. So we were able to utilize that. And that's why I pushed to get that done, because if we wouldn't have gotten that done, we would have lost, what, $500,000?
Do you know how much money, just roughly, that we had available for paving last year?
I believe I sent all the council members a copy and a reconciliation of the schedule. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I do. This is several weeks ago I sent that out.
Is it more than 1 road?
On Pleasant?
The amount of funds that we had available to pave.
The amount of funds were supposed to be used for other projects, but they never got used because one reason or another. But since we were doing Pleasant Parkway and those funds expired January of this year, we would have lost it because we wouldn't have been able to do the work. So that's why we worked it out with them that we could use for the certain parts of the project, those CHIPS funding. Otherwise, we would have lost it. And that would have been another $500,000 that we would have had to add on to this year to get those streets done.
So if you recall last year, we had discussions with, and I won't go too much into it because he's not here to speak on it himself, but we had mentioned to the highway superintendent, give me a list of the 50 or 100 worst roads that need to be paved, and we will do them.
We have that list. We have been working with the highway department for several months. Myself and the supervisor had weekly meetings every Tuesday. We've already had capital expenditure meetings to go over the required list. Now we're at the point of coordinating once again with the gas companies, the water authority, to make sure that when we dig up the street and do these full depth reconstructions, that the infrastructure underneath it is done at the same time. So we don't have to pave the street, put the sewer lines in, pave the street, and then the water authority comes in and digs it up, and then we got to repave it again.
No, I understand that, yeah.
So once again, to your point about mismanagement, exactly, that's what we've gotten ourselves into. We have gone and done certain things because we want to get it done, but we don't take other things into effect or into account that affect that project. So there's collaboration that needs to be done between us, the county, the state, everything else. And then, once again, it'll make the job more efficient. So yes, we pave the street, we do the full depth reconstruction, we're done. We don't have to go back and dig it up again for the water authority to come in. Now, is that a moving target? Absolutely. The other thing we're also looking at doing to make it more efficient is do areas of town. So instead of doing a street over on the Borden section and then doing a street off of Clinton Street or Broadway, we're going to do a whole area. So once again, like we did on Pleasant Parkway, the intent was to do that whole neighborhood in 1 year, get it done and out the door.
It's a good segue, like you were talking about doing these different areas. This is a good segue into some clarification I wanted to make on the road paving, because you will see that a road, let's say Rosewood, Midland, Westland, Eastland, were repaved in 1 year and then 5 years later. So that's what you'll see on the documents. But what happens is those streets north of George Urban will get done in, let's say, 2013. And then there's the dead ends immediately south of George Urban. That'll get done just a few years later. And it's because you're mobilizing equipment to take care of one neighborhood 1 year, and you're mobilizing it to be in the next neighborhood the next year. And the idea is that if you leave the paver out, you leave the other equipment out, you reduce on mobilization costs, fuel usage, what have you. You get people to the site and started quicker. You could be there a little bit longer. You don't have to take everything to and from the highway garage every day. So to speak to your point, one of the other reasons you may see a road done twice in a 5-year period, let's use Eggert Road, for example. Let's say the town paves the road, and this example has come up previously, then the water authority has an issue, they have to dig up the road, and then it has to get repaved a second time. That second time, the town gets reimbursement through the county. Those are some of the things that will account for why are we doing the same road in the course of 10 years. We have 5 folks signed up to speak here. I want to wind down council member comments. I want to give anyone that didn't have a chance to speak if they'd like to say anything before we move on to the public. All right. Are you all set? Or
I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
So, excuse my candor here, but are anyone else's ears ringing? This is the same conversation we had 2 years ago, almost verbatim, and minus Monica and Tiffany, who might not have been at the meeting. I know everyone else on this board has had this conversation before.
We've had these discussions during the 3 budget hearings that we had this year too. Not my position. My position has never changed.
What's there? I digress.
All right. With that, we're going to move on to the public. Thank you, Dennis. Sorry to just boot you away, but we're moving on. Dan Collender, you are the first signed up to speak from the public.
I want to thank Mr. Kraus there for providing us some really good numbers that pretty much back up what I've been saying for 6, 8, 10 months now, a year. I want to go with Ms. Vern Thompson. A good number you missed out is when we bond for road repaving, milling and repaving, that's 15 years. So if we're redoing it in 10 years, we still have 5 years left on the previous bond, and now we bonded it again for anybody who's keeping track. That's a very important number, is at 15 years. And my research showed we were doing some in 7 years, some in 10 years, some in 12 years. Almost very few roads in this town go more than 15 years. Okay, very few go more than 12 years. So we're double bonding. So we either need to bond less, which will save us money. Yeah, cost you more up front, but it'll save you money and interest. So bond those roads for 10 years if you have to bond. I prefer you don't bond, but if you have to bond them for less, save us some money. Yes, it's more money up front, but it's less interest. Overall payment is less. When you add the whole amount, it's less. With that said, this town doesn't have a revenue problem. There's not a single taxpayer will say they're paying too much, they're not paying enough. This town has a spending problem. And until the town board decides to reduce spending and stop okaying contracts, those contracts cost you $3-some million last year. That's not even counting adding in all the non-union employees that then all got pay raises last year. It's like a snowball going down the mountain. You give out a contract raise, now you're giving out raises to every employee in town. Don't say it doesn't happen, because you did it. You did it. It's flat out. It's in everybody can go watch all the videos, watch the replay. You probably cost the town $4 million more. Okay. Mr. Kraus said, what's it, 1.7 million we're over? Like, sounds to me, if we didn't renew that contract last year, we would have easily saved $1.7 million. Yes, the fringe benefits cost would have still went up, but the pay raises wouldn't have been paid out. You guys got to work on it strategically, find a way to handle those contracts so that we, the people, don't have to give you more of our revenue. So you can give town employees more of our revenue and we have less revenue. Because you have a spending problem. You do not have a revenue problem. Thank you.
Mr. Maisano, you're up.
I've been a resident of Cheektowaga for 40 years. 1986, I came to Cheektowaga. And my taxes right now have more than doubled for what it was then. Understand, but they doubled also because people said, matter of fact, most of you weren't on the board at the time when they allowed us to reassess our homes. And these homes all of a sudden went from $150,000 all of a sudden to $250,000. But our pay didn't go up. And, oh no, your taxes aren't going to go up. Well, yeah, I'm paying almost $6,000 now. That's with school and property taxes. Social Security, we got 2.8%. Medicare took part of that away. So what are we left with? So you guys want to raise it over the cap. We're already in the hole. We're talking about seniors. I'm concerned about my seniors and our young people who are coming in trying to make ends meet buying a home here, which are, the payments are ridiculous. When's it going to stop that if we have to budget our money and we have to make ends meet, so do you guys, so do you. I know what it's like because I was a deputy supervisor. I saw the budget. I know what it says. I know what's in there. But the idea is we have to stop now, okay? And I would encourage everybody here, start going to your school board meetings. Nobody goes to them. Go to them and speak up. There's a place to speak up. Enough is enough. We have to stop somewhere, all right? So what do we tell our seniors? I was at church Sunday, and this one guy says, I have to leave. I can't afford to be here any longer. What are we going to do, throw our seniors out of their homes? We're going to say, get out? After they worked all their lives for this. And as far as pensions goes, when I retired 20 years ago, my pension is the same today as it was then. We never get increases, nothing. So the only increase we get is Social Security. And you know what? That's eaten up by taxes here, food out there, medicines or with gasoline, well, whatever, okay? But also school taxes too. And I speak at my school board saying enough is enough. Stop it. Well, the kids want this. I don't care what they want. It's what they need. All right? We didn't get everything we wanted. I told my mother I wanted this, my father this. You know, you didn't get it because they couldn't afford it. We can't keep on borrowing for the kids that are coming up because they're going to pay the bill. Look at Buffalo. Look how many millions of dollars in debt they are in. And I don't want to see this in this town. And the last part, I want to say this. I brought this up before, and most of my neighbors feel the same way.
Rev,
Yes.
that is 3 minutes.
Can I have 2 seconds?
30 seconds?
All right, this won't take long. All right. AutoZone on the corner of of Union and Cleveland Drive. The gate's open, the place is a mess. Get somebody out there, either they settle it down, knock it down, or do something, because my neighborhood looks like trash because somebody's not doing their job over there. Whether it's lawyers, whatever it is who owns it, clean it up. This is our neighborhood, this is our town, and we want it cleaned up. And then we could put something in there that they could pay taxes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Flipsky.
Okay, so I will say that I am against going over the tax cap. I'm retired. Thankfully, I have a husband that helps contribute to our household income. But if he wasn't there, I'd probably not be able to afford to stay. My salaried retirement pension doesn't cover enough of that. I have some questions, though, about the budget. First of all, I know I asked previously about the budget prep reports to get them back up on our internet page. Mr. Crouch said he would do it. Hasn't been done. A week ago, I sent you an email to your financial thing. Still not done. And now I've had to FOIA the information. So it'd be a lot more helpful if you guys would just kind of show some transparency as well, so we can see what everything is happening. But if we got to play the FOIA game, I'll continue to play that game. How much are we paying each year for debt? And out of that, how much is interest every year? Do we have a figure? Total figure.
Sure, we do. I don't have it with me, but we have that, yeah.
Okay, maybe we could get that sometime, because that'd be helpful to know how much in interest we're paying. While we're also doing that, how much in outstanding bonding? So meaning, I know that there was 3 $5 million grants, I believe, for sewer. I don't remember what they were called, WIPGs or something like that.
Yeah, WQIPs.
Yes, thanks. And so we took out a grant for $5 million, or we took out a bond for $5 million. Out of that, have we been reimbursed for that? Because we took out another $5 million bond, and then we took out another $5 million bond. In my world, when I got the payment for that next $5 million, I'd put that aside in a New York class account, and I'd use that to pay the next one and submit the paperwork and get the next $5 million. I wouldn't keep taking out $5 million, $5 million, $5 million, and paying interest off of each $5 million. So how many of our grants that we've received have we not gotten cash back for? How many are outstanding? Do we have a figure on that?
I want to speak to the WQIP grants, and then there was one through the EFC. There was a zero interest loan where there was grant money on the front and the back of that. We've received the vast majority of the reimbursement on the EFC. We've received a good share of the money back on the WQIP loans. There's some sewer work that's outstanding in a couple of our sewer sheds around the William Street area near Harlem Road that we have to finish that up. The way it works is as you know, we do the spending up front. Once we get our invoices in and get the work complete, we get the money back. So we have sent in a good share of those invoices. We've gotten a lot of that money back. So it's helped us pay down debt. It's helped us replenish the cash that we actually have in our accounts. And we do have more of that money going into New York class. You were here last meeting. We were talking about EPIC, which is an alternative to New York class, to earn some interest on that. But I don't have exact figures. I can get better round numbers for you after the meeting.
And those are the kinds of things the residents want to know. When you get a bond, did we get the money back? I know that there's the apartments on Genesee Street, or not Genesee, Transit in Genesee. They were supposed to pay money for the sewer project, and I don't have the 50%, 75%, 60%, whatever it was. Did we bill them? Did we actually bill them and get the money? We had conversations.
Yeah.
That's been open for 2 years.
Working on them.
Okay, but we're out how much money? We're out money. That's the bottom line. We're out money. We're out money in the courts. They can't collect their money. We're out money over there. We're out money in a million places. And yes, I'd love for everything to stay open. I'd love that we could give everybody the world. We can't. We can't afford it. Our residents can't afford it. And that's all I got.
Our next speaker is Jessica Greenwald.
Hi, me again. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to pay more taxes, but I support the tax cap going up if that's what we need to do to not have our town go bankrupt. I want schools that have proper funding. I want clean streets. I want paved streets, and I don't care if it has to get repaved every 5 years. I understand that taxes are something that we pay to live in a nice society, and I am happy to pay more taxes to have our town be nice and have the people live in a town that's nice. Like, if you want a low tax life, go move to Alabama. I like the schools we have up here. I like our education system. I like our roads, our infrastructure. I believe you guys are doing the right things to fix it. And I don't know why we're sitting here listening to council members learn how budgets work during this hearing, but their opinion doesn't, mean as much to me as the people explaining to me why these things need to happen. So yeah, I'm with you guys. Raise it. If that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. Let's do it now and not have it be a bigger problem later. Thanks.
All right, our last speaker signed up for public comment, Wally Carriero.
This is interesting because it's almost like saying, how about giving me 10% more this year so I can go spend 10% more? You have a spending problem. Don't mean to take anything away from Dan. Senior citizens got 2.8% increase in their Social Security. Vern, you work in the private sector. You just walk in and see Dave Capretto and say, give me more money, right? You take your tax bill to work, you put it on his desk, he pays it for you. Because that's how it works in the private sector. There's, you go to the boss, you go, I need to make more money. He says, why do you need more money? Well, because the town of Cheektowaga has a spending problem. I never came to these meetings before because it wasn't a big deal. My taxes went up a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there, but the last 10 years, you guys have went on spending money too much. And for the most part, most of you weren't even on the board. It's all started with ARPA money that should have been used differently. And hopefully now you have some hindsight that we should have maybe bought some Packers back then instead of buying the Packers in this budget. Garbage tax increased 13% this year alone. 13% this year alone. But not one of you will talk about the elephant in the room of privatization of garbage services. You know why? Because when you look at the tax rolls and you start looking up some of these businesses paying garbage tax in this town, it'll make you sick of what we charge some of our commercial businesses that don't even use our garbage services. And that's just one example. So between the ARPA spending, between the increase in garbage costs, and then we start looking at some of these things, we need to find some alternatives. And I hear these things that we need alternatives, and there's some really good ideas that we're not taking advantage of. The other problem we ran into is we set a budget to remodel this room. We remodeled this room on a budget. I was at the meeting. And then all of a sudden, we bought new chairs. Where'd the old chairs go? Right? That was a big contention here. I'm not going to harp on it, but we went over our own budget. We can't even go and forecast what we're going to spend. I came to the budget hearings. I listened to all the presentations. I was here. You guys all see me, right? I mean, I wasn't doing much at the time. God forbid, I got to make money to pay my taxes, right? I sat here, and within the first month of the new year, you bought 15 doors of access control for this building at over $3,000 a door to secure this facility, and that ain't even the hard cost. That's just the cost to one vendor. You don't even know the rest of your costs once they get into it. $50,000 for how many people work in this building? 50? So that we can walk around with a card and look cool? Now, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. maybe I do. These are the spending habits that you guys have that you're spending money on. Now, as far as income sources, we didn't have weed revenue 10
Wally,
years
that
ago.
is 3 minutes.
We did not have hotel tax 3 years ago. We didn't have
Hold on, Wally.
surplus bonding
You guys want to go
issues.
3 minutes more or a couple minutes
Yeah,
more?
we'll give
or-
Wally another minute.
Sure, because we're going to do what we want anyways, right? We're going to vote, lift the tax cap. Lift it. See how much we can charge before people leave.
Okay, and with that, this is an issue we'll be discussing throughout the rest of the winter, into the spring, into the summer. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? A second from Mr. Nowicki. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. That moves us on to. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Madam Clerk, I know we closed the public hearing, but there were emails. Did you want to take a moment to recognize those on the record?
Did have approximately 50 emails that we received. I believe the board received them too, but we did compile a list of the names and we will share them with all the board members just to verify that you received them from everybody. They were basically all the same email as requested by one of our past board members that everybody share with you. I will read one of them so you know that this is what was submitted. Dear Town Clerk, I am writing as a concerned resident to express my opposition to exceeding the current tax cap and to urge careful consideration of the impact this decision would have on our community. While I understand that the town faces rising costs and difficult budget choices, exceeding the tax cap places a disproportionate burden on residents who are already struggling with increased expenses for housing, utilities, food, healthcare, and insurance. For many families, seniors, on fixed incomes and small business owners, even a modest tax increase can create significant financial strain. The tax cap exists to protect residents from sudden or excessive increases and to encourage fiscal discipline and long-term planning. Going over the tax cap, eroding public trust, and may force some residents to make painful choices, such as cutting back on necessities or considering relocation, ultimately weakening the fabric of our community. I respectfully ask that the town explore all possible alternatives before exceeding the tax cap, including prioritizing essential services, identifying efficiencies, and seeking other funding solutions that do not further burden taxpayers. Thank you for your time and for your service to our town. I appreciate your consideration for the concerns of residents who will be directly affected by this decision. I received no others besides those 50. I think a couple more might have come in during the meeting.
Clerk, we'll move on to board discussion. Is there any old business with board members this evening? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll move on to new business. I'm not aware of any new business. Any new business from council members? Okay. With that, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda announcement. A consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed to assist making the meeting shorter and more efficient. Items left on the consent agenda may not be discussed when the consent agenda comes before the town board. If any council member wishes to discuss a consent agenda item, please tell me now and I will remove the item from the consent agenda and it will be added as a separate resolution item. I have got one this evening to start. That would be 2026-72. If that can be pulled from consent. I reached out to board members. I'm not aware of any other items at the moment. After your review, are there any other items to pull from the consent agenda?
2026-52. $72.
I don't have any. Good.
Councilmember Potowski, did you see the two emails about 6386 transit? I know we talked about
Yes,
that.
yes. Yeah.
Are there any others? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, Madam Clerk?
We have resolution 2026-52 and 72 is what we're looking at.
Correct.
Approval of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda?
A motion.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We do have a couple items that were left on the table. Is there a motion or a second to remove resolution 2026-37 and/or 41 to the table for consideration?
Madam Clerk, I'd like to make a motion to remove 2026-41 from the table.
I'll second.
You're looking at resolution 2026-41, sponsored by Supervisor Noack.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, we didn't take an actual vote to confirm majority support.
All in favor of moving the resolution to the table?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 2026-41, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. Due to a recent high demand and urgency for the need of more refuse totes and recycling totes due to a large number of existing totes in an unusable state of disrepair, this town board, based on information provided to it by the General Crew Chief of the Sanitation Department, determined that there was a need for the purchase of a quantity of recycling and refuse totes. Sourcewell, formerly known as Nation Joint Power Alliance, an agency created by Minnesota state law, led a contract for the purchase of rollout carts from 16 to 96 gallons. Totter of Statesville, North Carolina, has provided the attached quote based on contract number 120324-TOT. The town of Cheektowaga will purchase 400 refuse totes at the unit price of $49 each, totaling $19,600, with an added shipping charge of $1,800 for the lot. This town board hereby authorizes the General Crew Chief of the Sanitation Department to purchase said refuse totes.
Right. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of January 13th, 2026, and including resolution items 2026-52 through 76, recognizing that we pulled off resolution 52 and 72 for separate consideration. I need a roll call vote. Well, first I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Sorry, who made the motion?
Councilmember Lewis.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote to approve the rest of the items. Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Elderkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Nowicki?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Noack?
Yes.
All items left on the consent agenda have been approved. We're moving on to our resolution items that were pulled. We'll start with resolution 2026-52, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Pilarski. The following transfer is hereby approved and made part hereof. There is a transfer for in-service training of $2,000 and after-school programs of $2,000 and brochures for $4,000.
Question?
A question on this. So being the beginning of the year, we are already transferring $2,000 from two separate lines. And I guess my question is, were they over budgeted in this portion, or are we going to need those funds later on at some point to take and put back in these training lines or after school programs? And I'm assuming this is for brochures related to our union. No. What are the brochures for?
This is related to Youth on Rack. So they're transferring, they want to transfer $2,000 from in-service training and after-school programs to the brochure line for printing for the youth and rec program, so that it would be their winter, fall, summer, spring, pamphlets that go out with all the programs and signups for that. They were actually under budgeted based off of what we presented. So she's moving numbers around and moving things into this line item. And she feels comfortable that like the after school program services won't be hindered by it with different grant money and funding coming in through Erie County Division for Youth that she's already got approved for year-round programming, but now she'll be applying also for summer prime time and should be seeing an increase in that as well. So she feels pretty confident that transferring these funds will not impact the services or programs provided, but will also be able to cover the cost where the gap was for the brochures.
Got it.
Thank you very.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for the explanation.
That's, and this is dealing with the 2025 cleaning up the brochures printed for last year. from what I
Correct.
can see. Is there any other questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Looking at Resolution 2026-72. Councilmember Thompson, before I read this, are you okay with what I presented on? Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Thompson, second by Councilmember Noack as the sponsors to amend this resolution. The resolution is going to be titled appointment. No, because I'm presenting it. I'm presenting the amendment. You did.
We didn't question, but we didn't vote on it.
All in favor of Resolution 2026-52?
Aye.
Aye. I thought you did. We have Resolution 2026-72. The amendment before you, the title is going to be changed to Appointment of Director of IT and Records Management, Dan Gribner. It will read, whereas the current Director of Information Technology and Records Management is retiring from her position effective 1/30/26, and whereas the Director of Information Technology and Records Management falls within the Management Confidential class, and whereas Daniel Gribner meets the minimum qualifications to fill the position of Director of Information Technology and Records Management, and as per the TCEA contract, he will be taking a one-year leave of absence from his position of Network Coordinator to fill this temporary position. And now therefore be it resolved that Daniel Gribner of Cheektowaga is hereby appointed temporary Director of Information Technology and Records Management at a salary of $115,000 and contingent on final signed agreement and approval of the Town Attorney, Personnel Director, and the Director of Technology. And be it further resolved that the start date for the position will be effective immediately upon final approvals.
Madam Clerk, are we taking a vote on the amended resolution now?
Yes, I am taking a vote on the amended resolution. All in favor of the amended resolution?
So this has come up in recent conversations about succession, and this is for our Director of IT, who has been with the town for many years, many years. And we had tried to get a position underneath her as an assistant director, and we did not have much success. And, here we are in the last minute. We were fortunate enough to find somebody to step into this position, but still does not. It's not as well as, the information and history that she has that's walking out the door instead of having the time to train somebody. So I know this did come up recently too with a potential vacancy coming up in our sanitation department with somebody who's been here for many years. And I'd love to, again, start the conversation to say, what are our plans in the near future to make sure that we have, of course, interviews, but we should be doing this, or at least trying to be somewhat proactive, because here we are losing somebody who has dedicated their life to the town and walking out the door with all of this information and skills that are not able to be passed on to the successor. So I think it's something that we take this as a good example that this is going to continue to happen time and time again until we collectively try and say, let's change how we've been doing things. So I'm very excited to see this individual. I think he's going to do a great job in this position and help us succeed from where we left off. So hoping we can learn from this and guide us in a good direction going forward for other positions such as this.
Council member comments? All right. Seeing that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And carries.
That's the end of our resolutions. We do have one that was submitted as a late file, so I need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include Resolution 2026-77 to the agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We have Resolution 2026-77, sponsored by Councilmember Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Noack. The mental health, safety, and well-being of children and adolescents are essential to the long-term health and stability of the town of Cheektowaga. And the national data shows that nearly 1 in 5 youth experience a mental health disorder, and suicide remains a leading cause of death among adolescents, highlighting the need for every intervention and prevention-based approaches. New York State has introduced a nation-leading proposal to protect children online, restrict harmful AI chatbot practices, and address the youth mental health crisis. The Town Board of the Town of Cheektowaga affirms youth mental health and well-being, online safety, and preventative education as priority areas of municipal concern. Town committees and departments are encouraged to explore partnerships, policy recommendations, and funding opportunities aligned with New York State initiatives to support youth mental health and well-being.
Okay, on the question? All right, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, council member.
I just wanted to uplift this resolution. Our young people are experiencing real issues, and right now, youth mental health crisis is really at the forefront and showing up in real ways, especially in schools. So I wanted to make sure that we highlight this as a municipal priority for our young people and also for our community so that we can collaborate better and that we can also position ourselves for more funding when it comes to our community. So our youth mental health first aid is such a critical issue, and we just want to make sure that we're recognizing that for our young people and highlighting it as a municipal priority for Cheektowaga.
Councilmember Vakowski.
I totally agree with this, but how can we implement this? Because town employees, we have the EAP. The police have their own separate mental health and issues in that, and even for their families in that. So what's your vision on going forward and where to get this implemented?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question. So right now, there's programs that are called Teen Mental Health First Aid that even my organization through Confident Girl Mentoring, we've been implementing those as well. And then also working in tandem with our police department, so providing solutions and trainings for the police department as well. And then also we can implement this in schools and also in after school programming, just so we can make sure that our town and our young people, because we know that our young people are our future, and also with the things that's going on, even in Walden Galleria, recently we just had an incident with online predators that are actually targeting our young people. So we want to ensure that these resources are available and we can work together, because as you know, I'm all for collaboration. So in order for us to do this, we need collaboration across the board.
So not just possibly implementing it for the schools in our town, but also like our youth and rec.
Oh, absolutely.
Working with them.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question too on this, Councilmember. So does this resolution make us eligible for funding, or is it just kind of opening the door to say we'd like to work with these groups?
I do know that right now this is a state priority, and I do know that funding will be coming down to our local municipalities, so it can position us once, for that funding. You're welcome.
Council member comments? All right, seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries.
That is the end of our resolution items. Communications received by the town clerk's office include departmental communications, the minutes from the Environmental Advisory Committee of January 7th, and minutes from the Planning Board of January 8th. General communications include 2 notices of claim.
Next up is public comment. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. We have 3 signed up. First is Dan Collender.
On Resolution 2026-72, you failed to answer not a single question of mine did you answer. Furthermore, you're procedurally wrong. You amended it. You got distracted. You failed to vote for the amendment, and then you approved it anyway. Go back and look at the video. Thank you.
All right, Don Filipski.
Well, I don't really have anything against the mental health part of this. I don't know that it really met the qualifications for being on the suspension and being approved. I thought it was like certain things that should have been very important. I'm sure it's important to you, but it wasn't about somebody getting a job. It wasn't about somebody I don't feel it met the needs of your recently revised rules, but that's my opinion. And the other opinion I have is that it's really sad when there are a lot of residents here that are very respectful and they treat each other decently, and you have to keep stopping your meeting for the same couple individuals who do not know how to be respectful to somebody else. And I hope at some point you'll either have a personal discussion with them, or I've been to plenty of meetings and people got kicked out for way less. That's my thoughts.
Done. Our last speaker, Eric Jablonski.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for having me. As I approach you, my hands tremble and my heart races, for I do not like doing public speaking or anything of this nature, but I feel a call to action to speak out about the deplorable actions of ICE and to ask for the clear and obvious choice to end all cooperation with this agency. I could sit here and list facts and atrocities or things that have happened, but I'm sure you are all intimately familiar with all of these events, if not more so than many members of the public could be. I didn't have time to write down a speech and think through everything I wanted to say. So instead of rambling forever and ever, I just want to say, electorally speaking, your community will commend your courage in ending opportunities and interactions with ICE, or condemn your cowardice. Thank you.
All right, next up is supervisors' comments. The last 2 meetings we've had, we've been dealing with a topic where passions run high. We're talking about a federal agency where there are multiple news stories of folks in this agency going door to door, and whether or not people are U.S. citizens, in my view, violating the Fourth Amendment. There are a number of stories of U.S. citizens being detained. In one case is a citizen from Laos, naturalized in 1991. He's pulled out of his house, detained for several hours. Before that happens, his daughter is saying, I've got ID. This guy is this person. He's a U.S. citizen, detained by ICE. I think we all have seen videos and photos of the cases of Alex Pretry and Renee Good and how they were killed. There are multiple cases of American citizens. One was a Purple Heart veteran from Iraq, detained for 8 hours. While he's in detention, he asks for his lawyer. His lawyer goes to the Bishop Henry Whippleman building in Minneapolis, where folks are being detained by ICE and Border Patrol. The lawyer goes to try to get access to his client and is unable to. I can go into more examples, and I'm sure all the folks up here are aware of some of these examples. And to varying degrees, the stories that we hear, they disturb us. They make us question our beliefs. We may watch the same videos, look at the same photos, and have different perspectives. And we're not going to all see things the same way. That's up here, and that's certainly for all of you out there. We don't all see things the same way, but I think we all appreciate the Fourth Amendment. I think we all appreciate the First and the limits that the Bill of Rights has on the actions of the government. We may look at a video, look at a photo, and draw different conclusions because of our life experiences. What this room is about is when people come up here and we have an opportunity to hear about their different life experiences and how they inform the way they look at something. I'm sure all of us here tonight heard a perspective from somebody that came up to speak that they disagreed with. And I have been here for a little while now, and I hear that regularly. I hear perspectives I agree with. I hear the ones that I might not see it quite the same way. What's important about what we do here is upholding the Bill of Rights. We say we care about democracy, and we care about freedom, we care about limited government, we care about holding government accountable. In this room, we have to put that on display as citizens. And when folks come up and express opinions that we don't like, we have to afford them the same space and attention that we afford to the opinions that we do appreciate. If we don't do that, this here is where the breakdown of democracy starts. It doesn't start in Washington, D.C. It starts in our local town halls when nobody shows up. And then when people do, we don't want to listen to each other. What has been interesting about the last couple meetings is that we've had a lot of new faces here. And some folks will say these are just outside rabble-rousers, agitators, and whatnot. There are neighbors, there are residents, there are people that own property in this town and businesses, and they have a stake, and they've been here for a long time. I might be only seeing these folks for the first time, but they put down addresses on this sheet to say, I live off of Union Road, or I live off of Lawson Road, or I'm close to Transit Road, I'm in the Depew School District. We don't have folks approaching this podium, especially at the last board meeting, that are just making up addresses and they live 5 towns over. The people that came to speak at these meetings overwhelmingly live here. They work here, they play here, they have a stake in the outcome of this community. And for my sake, at least, I don't think it should be surprising when we see a video of a man who is on his knees and surrounded by a number of folks get executed, for lack of a better word, that it's going to shock the conscience and bring people that aren't usually at our meetings to these meetings. But I said it at the last meeting, I'm going to say it again, and boo and hiss if you want. It's not these guys doing those things. These guys are our neighbors too. And I know that this audience here has got a pretty good distinction of what's happening with mass federal agents that we can't identify, that are essentially kidnapping people from the streets, and our neighbors, the people that have a stake in this community. They send their kids to schools in this community. They shop here, they work here, they live here, that spend their time every day keeping our community safe. And I've had the opportunity over the years to do ride-alongs and learn about the things that our local police department does, and I defended them last time, I'll defend them tonight, I'll defend them next time. I think there's space in this discussion to say that our neighbors here in this community are working to keep us safe, and we recognize an agency that had a certain mission since 2003, and in the last couple years, especially recently, we can see instances where they're not respecting the limits of the Constitution. So at risk of going on to a longer rant, I'm just going to stop abruptly and say that from this meeting to the next one, I'll be working with all of my colleagues to get varying perspectives on how to work with our partners in local government to do something that balances what's best for the town of Cheektowaga, what's best for this board, what's best for the community, to make sure that we're not in a place where we have to defend ourselves in the future about being on the wrong side of an awful interaction. And I'll just leave it at that and open it up to the council member comments.
So I didn't rewind the tape back here or anything, but I would like to make a motion to reintroduce Resolution 2026-72 and to make the motion to pass it as rewritten, as it was amended.
I'm sorry to cut you off, council members. I'm happy to reconsider the item. I did ask in real time if we were voting on the amended resolution. My recollection is we didn't vote formally for the amendment. So
Okay, so
that's
let's
the
just
reason
rewind
we're
it and
reconsidering.
go for
Right.
that and then move forward with it. Yeah, just to cover our
Okay,
bases.
so
I'll make a motion to accept the amendment as written.
Councilmember, are you making a motion to reconsider Resolution 2026-72?
As amended.
Are you making?
Yes.
To bring the resolution back? Is there a second? Actually, I need a majority of the board to say yes to bring the resolution back to the table.
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 2026-72 sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Supervisor Nowak. Whereas current Director of Information Technology and Records Management is retiring from her position effective 1/30/2026, the Director of Information and Technology Records Management falls within Management Confidential class. Dan Gribner meets the minimum qualifications to fill the position as Director of Information Technology and Records Management. Dan Gribner of Cheektowaga is hereby appointed temporary Director of Information Technology and Records Management at a salary of $115,000 and contingent on final signed agreement and approval of the Town Attorney, Personnel Director, and the current Director of Technology. His start date for the position will be effective immediately upon final approvals. All in favor of Resolution 2026-72 as amended?
Aye.
And we're voting on the amended Resolution 2026-72. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
With that, we'll go to Councilman Pilarski when he's ready for any comment he may have.
I'm actually short on comments today. Today was actually a better meeting than the last one, so I appreciate everybody's input, pro, anti, whatever it may have been. We were much better than last time, so I appreciate that. But we still have some work to do. You know, there was some difference of opinions, and sometimes that was shot down and interrupted. But I think we, got past that after that one speaker and moved on. So good job with that, and I look forward to more discussion on these topics. Thank you.
So what I heard tonight were two things. I heard trust and I heard safety. And I believe that those two things are very relevant, especially for our community. But the bigger question is, how do we get there? And I believe the answer is together. So we need to make sure that we're doing this thing together.
All right, I'm going to burn up some of your time, but I'll try to keep it as quick as I can. So first things first, there was a resident that raised a concern about sidewalks not being plowed and cleared. I definitely think if this is a common issue we keep coming up with, if we could put more of a stronger fine on commercial applications for people who aren't doing their job to the community that makes it prohibitive for them to not do their job for the community, that'd be great. Additionally, I had a conversation started with the attorney about the past meeting. We had a public hearing about the changing the tax law on our renewable energy systems and how we don't want to give handouts to all these developers. The few of the new council members just went to this Association of Towns training where it's not partisan or anything. It's just they're there to make sure you run your town efficiently. And one of the attorneys that was there said that specifically in regards to that law, that there's a possibility that we could put in a payment in lieu of taxes for applications of a larger size. So that way we can give a benefit to our residents who are just looking to do a little better and stop getting plundered by the electric companies and still get our tax revenue from for-profit industries. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's an avenue we might be following. Something really important that I heard tonight that they're not here anymore, so I won't say their name, but there was a person who was advising us how to not become the next Minnesota was to comply with lawful orders. So as a union leader myself, that goes against a lot of what I stand for, because when you look at union leaders throughout history, when you look at civil rights leaders throughout history, when you look at them, the fact that there are Black people in this room, the fact that there might be gay people in this room, if it was not for civil disobedience of people not complying with lawful orders, they would not be here tonight. And I can't say that that is something that we should want in a society. Going forward, let's see here. Rick, from a selfish point of view, absolutely. Make sure everyone in here goes to your school board meetings, one, because they are about half your tax bill, too. And it's easier for us to have them at those meetings, so that way you can get your taxes worn down that way and not just at us.
Councilmember Thompson.
Oh, no, I have more.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Extend
No.
his time? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm sorry.
Continue. No, it's all right. Sorry.
So I'll try to keep this in the short version. To keep it clear, I'm going to be definitely pushing for a resolution with separating CPD and ICE for the betterment of our community. My position is not anti-safety or anti-law enforcement. It's about ensuring our local police operate within their constitutional limits, avoid exposing the town to legal liability that we may already be subject to maintain the trust of all residents, citizens, and non-citizens alike. So the question isn't before us on whether or not federal law exists, but whether ICE's enforcement practices are consistent with those laws. So, as Brian said before, a federal judge did rule in that case that a citizen's Fourth Amendment right was broken by forcibly entering their home without a warrant. That's horrendous. Public safety with ICE is not inherently detrimented. A Stanford University study covering 140 years of data showed that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are significantly less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born citizens. It showed that they commit crimes at lower rates than native-born citizens, and also that undocumented immigrants in Texas were arrested at less than half the rate of U.S.-born citizens for violent and drug crimes, and at a quarter of that for property crimes. Additionally, our local police are not federal immigration agents. They're here to enforce local and state laws, not federal civil immigration violations, especially when they have billions and billions to play for, and we have to worry about our own budget in this town. Regarding the public opinion concerns of agitators at the last meeting, of the people who were written down, only one name was not a Cheektowaga residents. So that's not proving that they were or weren't, but at least the names and addresses that were written down were of our community. So my commitment is going to be, as a councilman, I'm going to uphold the Constitution. I'm going to protect the town from civil liability where possible, ensure that our police department focuses on a local public safety and not a federal immigration enforcement stance. For these reasons, I'm supporting limiting non-essential cooperation between the Cheektowaga Police Department and ICE. This is grounded in evidence, constitutional law, and a commitment to safety from all residents in the town. Thank you.
Councilman Thompson?
Supervisor, so, I mean, maybe it's not obvious. I do not support anybody being murdered on camera. If that's, what happened, I can tell you I did not watch.
Guys,
I did not watch that video. I try not to be on social media as best I can because a lot of it is negative. When it comes to our town and our police department, they do a fantastic job. They're one of the few departments that are accredited year in and year out. There's very few departments that receive that award and honor. So when we talk about crime and people being, detained from our police department, they're not going around finding people and say, hey, we're going to accuse you of this crime. They're being called from Macy's, or they're stealing, or they're doing something. They're not just randomly picking people up. So our police department is not going around rounding individuals up. I'm not saying that's okay at all. But pertaining to this town that we live in, our police force is not doing that.
I'm asking the audience to give him an ability the chance to speak and share his comments.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. I may be wrong, but to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody has different knowledge on that, that is not the case. So there was an individual that mentioned communication earlier. That is incredibly important for us to be in communication with other agencies to know what's going on. We're in communication with, the Lancaster Police Force, I'm sure with the FBI. There needs to be levels of communication to be effective to make sure that your community is safe and the job gets done. There's no question. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. So to not know what's going on and blind our safe spot of having our officers be that buffer between violence and crime, they're the first people that we call. When there's an issue or somebody's breaking into your home or there's something suspicious outside of your home, who are you calling? You're not calling, maybe you call your neighbor Joe, or he come and, protects you, but you're picking up the phone and calling 911 for them to come in and protect you and support you. They're not going around terrorizing our neighborhoods. Nobody in our department is doing that.
They're calling the ones that are. Be real.
So are they just rounding individuals up and saying
people that are kidnapping people and acting as terrorists, executing people?
that's not accurate?
Stop acting.
It's not accurate.
Out of order.
You want it to happen? Because it will.
How many have been executed?
I'm asking the audience to let the councilman finish speaking. Everyone. My approach up here is, when in doubt, to allow free speech. And I've demonstrated at the last meeting and this one. And there have been multiple folks in this audience that have looked at me and my colleagues saying, Brian, why aren't you stopping this? I'm letting it go for a second, letting everyone get a chance to get some of this out of their system. But it's the councilman's time right now. We need to give him his opportunity to speak. We'll move right down the rest of the line. We gave Mr. Nowicki a chance to speak, and Ms. Lewis, and Mr. Pilarski. It's Vern's turn.
I appreciate that, Supervisor. And like I mentioned the last meeting, I'm sure there's a lot more in common that we all have here, but just trying to go against the grain to create this division, it's not necessary. There are things to be frustrated about. Okay, we can talk after this if you like, or you can storm out. I'll sit here and talk with you for hours if you want, and we can have a discussion, but please allow me to finish. So there's going to be disagreements amongst all of us, but to have that respect, to allow others who you disagree with to have that forum, that is important, and that needs to continue throughout our meetings and in our community. So that's what I really want to emphasize on. I've said it in past meetings. I'll stay here until they close the lights or lock the doors. I'll have a conversation with anybody in here, whether we disagree or not. I'll hear you out, and I will be open to having a discussion about any matter, whether it's town or state, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to touch base on that. And then lastly, I just want to thank Lisa Bolognese, our Director of IT, who's going to be retiring in a few days after all of the time she's dedicated to the town. So, thank you.
Councilmember Bukowski.
I believe in communication, and I want to thank everybody who did show up today and had their comments, and all your comments will be taken and into consideration. So again, thank you for your comments. One of the things I also wanted to address is in regards to the tax cap. I got numerous emails, and I will confer with our town clerk to make sure that your emails have been recognized and that they will be put on record also. And also I wanted to reiterate, thank you very much, Lisa Bolognese, for all your hard work and your contribution to the town and making our IT awesome. So congrats and best for your retirement.
First, I just want to thank the Highway Department, Sanitation Department, and first responders for working out in the cold and the snow and getting us cleared. My son does not thank you, as schools were open today, but
All right.
okay. So on to the numerous communications I've had for the reform ICE policy. I just want to read some language here. It is the policy of the Town of Cheektowaga Police Department that all members make personal and professional commitments to equal enforcement of the law and equal service to the public. Confidence in this commitment will increase the effectiveness of this department and protecting and serving the entire community. To encourage crime reporting and cooperation in the investigation of criminal activity, all individuals, regardless of their immigration status, must feel secure that contacting or being addressed by members of law enforcement will not automatically lead to immigration inquiry and/or deportation. While it may be necessary to determine the identity of a victim or witness, members shall treat all individuals equally and not in any way that would violate the United States or New York State constitutions. Immigration detainers. No individual shall be held solely on a federal immigration detainer under C4R 287.7 unless the person has been charged with a federal crime or the detainer is accompanied by a warrant, affidavit, or probable cause or removal order. Sound reasonable? This is part of the 414 policy. So I want a resolution to examine some, I read this over and some of the 4014 policy is unclear. And I think we should get together with the chief, members of our community, stakeholders, and look at some of the reasonable suspicion and communication allowances. I agree, human trafficking, we need to communicate with the FBI. There is communication with other town policies. What cannot be done, as this states, is we cannot detain. And we need to make sure that everyone is trained on that. It was addressed that there was retraining. We also need to rebuild trust because it can't be just words. This has to be lived, and we have to rebuild a policy that this is the forefront. And I'll end there.
Thank you, Councilmember. With that, I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss pending litigation and the discipline of a particular person. And as we do that, I'd also like us to take a moment of silence as we close the meeting in memory of Rob Pikuzinski and recognizing the loss of the Pikuzinski family. So again, motion to enter executive session for pending litigation, discipline of a particular person, and I'd also like to take a moment of silence before I hit the gavel. With nothing to follow. Thank you, Councilmember. You're picking up quickly. All in favor? All in favor? Any opposed?